Hi folks, welcome to this episode of Vern's Misadventures. So what you're looking at here on the screen is Perl 7 Mate version, and it is running as a virtual machine. There we are, it's Perl Mate 7.0 Roll Tide. Using 2 cores of my CPU on my laptop here, and I give it 3 gigabytes of RAM. Now, a while back, I made a video that showed how to install a version of Perl. It's a good looking operating system and it's fairly complete. If you look at it here, I mean, it comes with all kinds of cool stuff. Like I say, it is based on Mate, and which is of course a continuation of GNOME 2. I did encounter a few issues installing this version. Not entirely unlike the version that I did in the first video that ended up being 2 hours long. But there are some easy fixes and walkarounds for it. And so we can jump in here and get after it. So first things first, we'll go ahead and shut this machine down, power off the machine. Alright, so what are you going to need to do this? You're going to need to install Virtualbox. To install Virtualbox, you merely go to virtualbox.org and you can download. I downloaded the latest version 5.2, seems to be working quite well. After you install VirtualBox 5.2, you'll then go to the next step. If you look at the downloads link. So once you've already got that installed, you'll come back and you'll install the extension pack. And you'll just simply click on this link here. And when it asks what you want to do with it, say you want to open it with Virtualbox. And so there you have it. That'll install just fine. And then you know, just out of an abundance of caution, you could close Virtualbox. It'll probably have 2 instances running. You can close them both and get a fresh start on it. And you'll be ready to go here with your Virtualbox. So once you have Virtualbox installed, the next thing to do is to visit. I have a web page here. Let me see. I actually have a link for the 7 that I got, which is a 32-bit version. You could get the 64-bit version. This just happened to be what I downloaded, and it'll work just fine in VirtualBox environment. I will include a link in the description of the video to the SourceForge page where you can download the same one that I used for this video. You'll probably also find the 64-bit version on that page as well. So anyway, let's move on to the installation, shall we? So next thing to do here is you'll just click New, and you'll name this Perl Mate 7 Demo. You can name yours whatever you want. Now in the second one, the type, you're going to want to put Linux. And under Linux, you could actually put Ubuntu 32-bit. And then click Next. So my rig has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I've allocated 2 gigabytes of RAM to the virtual machine. I'm going to create a virtual hard disk now. We'll accept the default VDI, VirtualBox disk image, and we will dynamically allocate, meaning it won't actually take up space on your hard drive until you have started to fill it. So whatever you actually use is how much space it will take up, rather than reserving a large amount of space that may or may not ever get used. Now we are going to allow it to grow to a given size, which is what you do with this slider here. And I think for a good demonstration purpose, I'm going to set mine at 30 gigs, and I'll just create it. So we'll select our new machine here, over here on the left column, and we will click Settings. Under Basic, we got our name, Linux, Ubuntu 32. Okay, cool. And then under Advanced, You want to go through here in your shared clipboard, go bi-directional, and drag and drop bi-directional. Okay. Alright, and on to the system. Under motherboard, there's our memory we've set. Now under the processor, my rig has a quad core processor, and I'm going to give 2 to the virtual machine. So there's 2 CPUs, and then we'll enable PAE, and we are good there. Invalid, something detected. Not currently enable motherboard section of this. Okay. Okay, so there you go. Well, there you have it. We caught a problem before it became a problem. So okay, so we're back to the processor, and we're good there. We go to the display. We can max out the video memory to 128 megabytes. We're going to use one monitor. We're going to enable 3D acceleration. Enabling 2D acceleration will give us a invalid setting, so we just leave that unticked and move on to the next thing, our storage. Okay. So we have an empty virtual DVD-ROM, and we have our hard drive for storage, so we'll leave that at B. We'll just leave the default settings for audio. Network. We can accept our default settings there. Or if you think you might want to do something with SSH or whatever later on, then you can select bridge. But it's been my experience that the NAT actually has faster transfer speeds. So we'll leave that with the defaults. Serial ports, I don't need them. USB, we're going to use a 2.0, that's fine. Shared folders, I do have a folder I'd like to share. And so we will add a folder. And the way you do that is just get a path to your folder, go other. And then in my documents here, I have a VM share. And I'll select that folder. And I'm going to select it at auto mount, but I want to be able to write to it, so I'm not going to tick the read only. So we'll leave that. User interface, the default is to have the controls at the bottom of the screen when you're full screen, and that works out just fine for me. You can select to show at the top of the screen if that works out better for you, but I think that I've had the best luck just leaving it at the bottom with this particular application of it. So there we have it. Everything's all set up. We can click OK. Now we can go ahead and click Start. All right. So you click on this little folder icon here. And okay, you might auto-navigate it to wherever you have downloaded your Perl Mate ISO. So you click on that and you open. And now you're ready to click Start. So here you go. You go ahead and select the first option, which is Live, boot the live system. And so this will take a little while to load. You can just ignore that when that comes up because it's going to load the graphical user interface. And you see here where it says user Perl will log in automatically, so there's no need to mess with that right now. Alright, I'm going to take the virtual machine to full screen by simply using my right control key on my keyboard and clicking F. Alrighty. So there's our desktop background. Here comes our top-mounted taskbar. See, now here's one of the bugs that I was talking about that comes in the pre-configured or that comes in this ISO. Apparently, this Scott person who built the system that was later turned into the ISO had some things configured, and now it's looking for them because that was its last known configuration. So you can just click OK to ignore that. Alright, next thing to do, we're just going to click the Install Perl Mate 7 right down here. It's a little hard to see with this background, but there it's right there, a little disk. So we'll double click that. Okay, we can click Don't Show Again on that too. We don't really need to do backups right now while we're installing it. So there's glitch number 2. Now there are much better distros, but this has kind of got a neat theme to it, and once it's installed, it really is quite easy to use and pretty stable. So I do like it, but it does have its quirks when you're first getting started with it. So anyway, we're going to select your language. So English works for me. I'm going to go ahead and click Continue. English US layout on the keyboard, so continue. We're going to go ahead and install the third-party software so we can have Flash, MP3, and all the other good stuff. So we'll continue. Alright, so now this all pertains to your virtual hard drive. No need to worry about erasing your Windows or Mac installation, whatever you happen to be installing this on, because this only affects the virtual machine that we've created. It basically creates a file within your existing operating system, and it won't hurt anything. So go ahead and you can select to erase the disk and install Perl Mate. Now, I'm going to give the one warning, and of course, user beware, but if you are doing a hardware install and you plan to keep your operating system that you currently have, do not use this option because it will wipe it off your disk. Virtual environment, we're just fine. Alright, go ahead and click Continue to accept the changes we've decided to make. Alright, see this green part up here on the map? Now I happen to live in North Texas here in the United States, and this part covers it for me. So wherever you are in the world, you can put your mouse over there and click, like say maybe if you're on the East Coast of the US, of course you could just click right here, and actually click right here, like say you could do New York. So as long as your area of the country is lit up in green, then you're in the right time zone. So me being here in Texas, I'll click over here, they call that Chicago, I'll click Continue. Old Scott got us again, didn't he? So we'll get rid of Scott here, and we'll just put Perl 7, so -7. There we go. Username, I don't think I want to use Scott. I'm going to use my name. And I'll put a password I can remember. Can't remember it, you'll want to write it down. It says it's weak, but it's fine for a demonstration virtual machine. Okay, you can select to log in automatically here. I'm not going to. I'm going to use my password to log in. So continue. Okay, that's pretty much all you'll need to do to interact with it. You can actually walk away and come back later when it's finished. Alright, so once you have completed the installation process here, you'll see this little box up here say installation complete, and you need to restart in order to use the new installation. So you just simply click Restart Now. Here we go. Please remove the installation medium and then press enter. So we just press enter. Alright, here we are. So we can press enter, or we can just let it time out and it'll start all by itself. So I let it time out just to prove the point. Alright, splash page went full screen, looks good. Okay, so here we are. Here's another one. Configure directory for incoming files does not exist. So that's just another quirk that the makers of Perl didn't quite get sorted out. You can just click OK to get rid of it. It doesn't matter. It's just another annoyance, right? Okay, so moving on to this. Here's what we look at when we have a fresh installation of Perl. Look at how laggy right now. Look at how laggy the dock response is. And also there's a feature that comes pre-installed in Perl called wobbly windows. And look at the slow response on that. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to go ahead and check something here. Actually, I have checked it out in previous attempts to install this, and you come up with a thing that says you're about to uninstall an integral part of the operating system, and it won't let you do it. So there's another little quirk. So as far as using, you should be able to just click over here, go to drivers, right? Put your password in. Alright, so it should be what we should be able to do is just go over here to Virtualbox guest, right? And then apply the changes. So that's your first problem you're going to run into, is that it says it can't fetch the things you need. And then even after you get past that, you get to a situation where it says it's not going to let you make the necessary changes. See, now it offers us to restart the computer, right? But it's still not selected here. So just for fun, we'll just go ahead and restart. And when we restart, we still won't have those drivers. Okay, logging in. So we're going to check. I don't think that the drivers will have installed. It was a problem in previous attempts to install this. And I'll show you what I did to work around it here. I love the way it says it's finished and then it's not finished. Okay, see, we still got the same screen we had before. And so basically what we're going to do is we're just going to use Virtualbox to install the necessary software. So we'll just close this, and we can close this as well to get it out of our way. Alright, so what we do is we mouse down here to the bottom, all the way to the bottom of the screen, and it brings up the hidden menu for Virtualbox, which is this smaller print down here. File, machine, input, devices, blah blah blah. So let's go to devices and click there and insert the guest edition CD image. Alright, and then we will select it. I'll open the auto run prompt and we go OK and run. We have to put in our password. So it will get the necessary kernel modules and it will build the drivers that we need to use Virtualbox. Now, Linux basic design was built to mimic that of to be very similar to Unix. And in Unix, a lot of your securities and all this have to do with having users be part of groups. In other words, so when you add a user, you have to make them part of a group that can use different parts of the system, the sound, the games, different this, different that. So when we install our guest editions, we're going to have to add our user to the group of people who are allowed to use the guest editions extensions. So we'll have to add a simple command in the terminal to do this. Is the easiest way to do it. So you're just going to type sudo usermod -a-G vboxsf and then put your username. Okay, so it has built the modules. It has built the drivers for this, so we can press enter to close that terminal. Now we can open the terminal again. And we'll just paste that command right there. So paste and press enter, and then we'll put our password. And it did it. Okay, cool. So if you just type, I think if you type groups, it'll show you. Let me see if I'm wrong about that. Yeah, here we are. So here are the groups that I am currently as Duverne the user. So I am administrator. I have the right to use the CD-ROM, sudo, dip, plug develop, samba share, and lpadmin. And we've just added myself to the Virtualbox group. But that won't take effect till after a reboot. So, two ways you can reboot the machine. One way is to go over here to the start menu, click on the gear, and then you click the shutdown, and then you can simply click restart. So that's one way. Another way would be to just simply write in the terminal sudo reboot. Alrighty, so we will press enter to save a few seconds on the reboot. And there's that nagging box. So we won't even mess with the drivers or any of that on this particular utility. But if you'll notice, we have a little better response out of the dock, and I think we're going to have a little better response out of the wobbly windows. A little better. Now, my machine is bogged down by the screen recorder and the virtual machine, but you get the idea. It's not too bad, and I think that we are good to go. Now, another thing that we enabled by installing and adding ourselves to the group is if you look here in you see here you have this sfvm share. So that's the shared file from our host, which in this case is Windows 10. So there we go. Now I did this before in my testing, so what we'll do is we'll create a folder. Check it out. And we will call it test 2. How about that? Oh, that's original, man. Alright, cool. So now we have a test 2 folder, right? So if we just go ahead and go Control F, right Control F to come out of full screen, now we can see that I have my Windows taskbar down here. So look at here. If I go to my documents and I open up VM Share, Look at that, there's test 2. We created that in Linux, and yet we can access it in Windows. So let's see what else we could do here. We can something quick and simple. Alright, so yeah, we put this screenshot in there. So yeah, we can go copy, and then we can go right to our shared. Well, let's see, that was in our documents, right? So we go to documents and then VM share. And we could put that right in the same folder if we wanted to. And we paste. There it is. Okay. And so we could actually close this. Now this is Windows File Explorer or Windows Explorer, I believe. Whatever it is, it's the Windows File Manager. So we'll close that. We're going to go right Control and F again to go back to full screen in our virtual machine. We can pull down on this to show that that's indeed where we are. Okay. This is the Linux File Manager that's in Perl. Notice the Mac style buttons on it. Okay, so if we look in test 2, come on, open up. There is our capture.png. We can open that up, and there is some kind of a screenshot of me working with Adobe Premiere in Windows. So there you go. Here's another problem we're going to have to deal with. And like I say, I'll just untick this box here. In my case, now you may want it. There's documentation here. You can check it all out. Close that for now. So in the terminal, you'll run 2 simple commands to get your updates going. If you look here, this will say that it can't access the updates or whatever. Well, actually it says there's one available. Then when you try to install it, it says it can't do it for whatever stupid reason. So rather than that, what we're going to do is we're going to run 2 simple commands. One being sudo apt-get update. Okay, now what that's going to do is update the repositories. So it'll know the latest software that's actually available for the computer. And so you'll have to put your password in. Now notice I said it's going to update. It's going to update the database, comparing to what you have versus what's available, right? But what it doesn't do is install the software with that. So if you press the up arrow on your keyboard, it'll repeat the line you just typed, and we could just erase the word update and type dist distribution upgrade. Okay? And if you do that, that will update you to the latest version, or the latest versions of all of these different software, pieces of software here. Applications, I guess, would be the better word to use. So it asks you want to use an additional 328 megabytes of disk space, and I'll select yes, and we'll install the update. And so this will take a little while to complete. There will be a part where we'll have to interact with it, because it will ask you at one point if you're going to want to keep your original configuration file or accept the new one. Now, if you accept the new one, then your grub screen is going to look just like a regular old Ubuntu. And I happen to think that the theming is much nicer on the Perl. So at that point, we're going to opt to keep our original one. And that's the only thing you're really going to have to interact with on this update. Alright, so here's the part I was talking about, where it asks you, what do you want to do about the modified configuration file grub? And so my recommendation is to keep the local version currently installed, and we'll just press enter to accept that. Alright, so now that that's finished, yeah, it says here, return an error code 1 subprocess. I wouldn't fret that unless it continues with that error after the reboot. So let's go with sudo reboot. Password. Alright, well, let's see how it acts. Not too bad. A little sluggish, I guess. I don't know. Let's see how this is. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, we still got this we'll have to deal with later. One other thing that might help us some getting the software center working properly. Alright, we'll go to the terminal. From the terminal, we should be able to type software. Gotta spell it right. Properties. GTK. Alright, again. Sudo software. Actually, we can just repeat the last line. Up arrow, come to the front. Hit sudo. And enter, type the password. Alright, here we go. Let's see, how would you edit that? Oh. What about this? We want that one. Apply. Let's see what we got here. Comes up on this one. We'll pick a US mirror. Fastest one we can get is this one. And we will select that and apply. Cool. Updating. Alright, good to go. Now we can close this. And we can close the terminal. So now if we click on there, what happens? Alrighty, click OK. Okay, so we're all up to date, and the Software Center knows it. So we've got a check mark here instead of a warning. And hopefully, when there's updates, we should be able to install them that way. Won't have to run the commands in the terminal. So anyway, I do encourage you to look through the documentation here. There's a video in the documentation that kind of shows you some of the steps we took, as well as a few more, to get up and running with the Virtualbox extensions and whatnot. But pretty much that's it. Now you've got a usable Linux operating system. It gives you the Mac experience somewhat. Yeah, at least the look and kind of some of the feel. Alright, so I've done some experimentation. I wanted to add this to the movie, and I've already done it, and I wasn't recording when I did it, but that's alright. I'll show you how you can do that. That error we get when we first log in, the little box pops up saying that there's a file not available for Blueman. The easiest way I could think of to fix that, and there's probably a better way to do it. I tried going into Blueman settings, but and you can do that. You can go to sudo Blueman settings, I think it is, or Blueman services. Right, and you can run that, and then you can try to configure it to your liking. I didn't see an option to get rid of Scott's setup there. So the simplest solution was just to remove Blueman from the computer, from the virtual machine, since we don't really have the ability to use Bluetooth in a virtual environment anyway. So it's the simplest and most practical solution. To do that, you just simply do sudo apt-get remove and then Blueman, and then mine's going to show that it's not installed, but you press enter, then you type in your password. And another thing I probably neglected to cover at another point in the video is, if you're new to this, when you're using the terminal, you're not going to see your password displayed when you type it in. So just type in your super secret password there and then press enter. So there you go. In your case, it will go ahead and remove Blueman, but since I did it when I wasn't recording, it's not going to show that for you. I also did some other customizing off screen that I didn't show. I changed the desktop background, obviously. I think this looks pretty clean. I also, let me show you here. So you can choose a different theme too. I tried out some different colored themes that are available. If you go down here, now you can go back to the general, the plain old Mate themes too, if you wanted to. The whole reason, at least in my mind, for installing this distribution was to have the theming that comes with it. So anyway, I selected the default theme after all was said and done, and it's got the more silver-like, more Mac-like appearance. And then of course it says it suggests a background. I clicked apply background, but it didn't change the background, so apparently that didn't work out too well. But you can choose from the backgrounds easily enough. But there are some different colors down here if you wanted to look. You got dark themes. My problem with dark themes is a lot of times you can't really see the menu options that come up in certain applications. So I don't use them, even though I do actually prefer a darker theme. I don't really use them because of that reason. It just totally blacks out certain menus and options, and it makes it more difficult to use. Like I say, there are certain, you got all these Perl themes here. You got brown, gray, orange, pink, purple, red, sand, teal. And so, you customize it to your liking and all that. And I'll show you another thing that I figured out here. And then I decided to go ahead and make a little recording here. Oh, by the way, if you wanted to change your background, you just go over here to desktop background, change desktop background. That'll come up in a second here. Can't believe how much less snappy this thing is when I'm recording. It really works nice when when I'm not trying to show you. But anyway, that's all right. It's neither here nor there. Yeah, you can just choose from any of the installed backgrounds if you wanted to, or you could add a background. Similar like what you do to Windows, but you can just add it here too, so it'd be in all this, in all of them. So get more backgrounds online, or you can add one like a picture or something if you wanted to use a picture. So close that. You go into settings over here in the control center on the dock. Open that up. Now it's just a preference of mine to have a clean desktop. Some people like to work off their desktop. And hey, more power to you. That's just not the way I do things. I don't like a cluttered desktop. I really don't. I like to enjoy my background when I'm looking at my desktop. I don't have anything open. I just like to enjoy my background. I don't want to see a bunch of icons and all that. So what you can do is, if you go over here to where it says look and feel in the control center, which is of course these switches right here on your dock, you go to Mate Tweak and open that up, single click, and then you can simply select which icons you want to show on your desktop, and I don't want to show any, so I'm just going to select there, because everything that I need that would be available on the desktop there is available right here on the dock. So I basically have it on my desktop twice with showing the icons. Now, hey, it's a personal preference. Do what you want. It's yours. But I just want to show you how you could do that, in case you wondered. So that's the last little items we had here as far as getting it set up and being able to use it. So we configured our mirrors, we set up our desktop, we installed the updates, we fixed the error message that you get every time you log in, which is kind of annoying and kind of ruins the experience. So without that, that's really nice to not get that little nag box, And then, so yeah, I think we're ready to go here. So I want to thank you for watching the video, and I want to thank you for bearing with me as I went through all this. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them, and do so politely if you would. Hey, we'll talk to you all later. Thanks. Bye.